When he left Tekkie Town, the former chief executive said it had become impossible to achieve the desired results for the business. This was because of the way senior management had been treated. I'm taking stock with Mostert. He is the former chief executive of Tekkie Town. A power struggle at the helm as to, and egos. Clearly, egos, big, fragile egos, money. It's a toxic combination, surely.
I think that started even before we got on the scene, because the single biggest power struggle that resulted in this was between Pieter Erasmus, formerly the CEO of Pepco, and Marcus Jooste, who had won Dr. Visa's favour and who had then inherited Pepco in terms of the transaction that it absorbed Steinhoff in. Pieter and Marcus certainly never saw eye to eye, and it wasn't easy for the two of them to work together. And where we came into it was also those speciality brands. There were 500 stores there that historically did not do well, and at that stage we had 295 stores. So it was the idea of Marcus to put the Tekkie Town model into those 500 stores, spin them out as a separate business unit with its own reporting structure, and that we then would run it.
Did you make the Pepco guys look bad? Was that the problem?
We achieved results in the time.
Short answer is yes. You would contend that you made them look bad. They resented your existence within the structures and corporate politics and egos being what they are. I mean, I'm summarising here to get to the nitty gritty of this.
I love how you try to get that answer out of me, but the truth is, what we wanted was a good result. And if that made somebody look bad in hindsight, we apologise for that. But we did get a good result.
110 people walk out. It looks like an orchestrated walkout. From what you were saying earlier, it was a natural attrition. People just felt they couldn't work for Pepco anymore, for Steinhoff Africa Retail, and they all walked out. Now, that makes very little sense from an outsider's perspective when you consider a town like George, which is beautiful and picturesque, but not too many job opportunities, that people would risk their futures, their families' futures, their school fees, walking out of a great job in George. Did you plan it?
Didn't plan it at all.
You didn't say to people, if you leave, we can substitute your earnings. We've got a trust with 104 million rand in it that we've used for ancillary expenses along the way that can sustain you while we make another plan, while we either buy back Tekkie Town or we launch Tekkie Town Mark II.
Not at all. So the existence of the trust was known. It was a trust that we had set up for emergencies and times of crises following our transaction with Actis in 2015. Mm-hmm. So people were aware of the trust. To ask whether the walkout was orchestrated, Davy and I decided on the Sunday evening.
Davy, your chief operating officer.
Davy Finneker, my chief operating officer, decided that we would resign on the Sunday. We had lost complete faith in Leon Lawrence's promise that he would come up with a solution that would include Braam. I also had certain discussions with Jahendra Naidu,
who's the chairman of
Star
Africa Retail, yeah?
And that too hinted to me that the outcome for us wouldn't be good. So, the business deserves a leader who has the support of the corporate hierarchy. That's the starting point. And I've always said to people, forever in this business, don't accept the paycheck if you don't respect the person you report to.
Easier said than done, depending where you are on the pay scales and how much money you've managed to make over the years. Tell me about the allegations of corporate espionage, because there are telephone transcripts which are filed as part of court papers in the early days of this battle, where it would seem there were lots of conversations between a guy called Willem Waite, who seems to be your IT guy at Tekkie Town, and his subordinate of his called Werner de Bruin. And they have lots of very colourful and very fruity and very spicy, I think that's a word that you like, conversations, all about you buying hard drives using your personal credit card to download information off the Tekkie Town network. This is the stuff of James Bond and corporate espionage.
The answering affidavit that Willem submitted, along with the other respondents in that case, is equally entertaining and paints a whole different narrative. The first is that certainly in the ex parte hearing that happened, Steinhoff used the brain as their key witness, and there were several misrepresentations and facts that were left out of that. De Bruin himself, and it is in our affidavit, confirmed that he had received an offer of a bribe. That was his term for it. to go back and help them.
But at this point, at the point that the conversation between Wait and De Bruyn were happening, he was on your side. He was on your team. You then allege that he was bribed. But there are conversations. The conversations are in detail about your personal credit card being used to buy hard drives to download information off Star servers. Correct? Factual or not factual?
Not factual at all. And in the answering affidavit, my credit card was never used.
But what were the conversations about? Because these are transcripts of real-life conversations.
It's a fabrication. De Bruyn claims that my credit card was used. It wasn't used at all, and that's one of the key points that we put in front of the court.
Were hard drives bought and were hard drives used to download information from Tekkie Town?
As standard protocol, when anyone resigns, during the first week of the resignations, before I had resigned, the IT team performed their normal protocol in terms of backing up everyone who had resigned emails for Tekkie Town, not for the walkout group, if you want to call it that. So that is false, and we prove that in the court.
What about a quote from Willem Wait? This is a quote, and I have to be careful on how I say it because it contains rude words. Everyone, and this goes to an allegation of corporate espionage, an attempt to hack into Tekkie Town systems, to disable Tekkie Town systems, to make sure the point of sale devices don't work. I'm going to quote from the transcripts that were submitted as part of legal documents. Everyone needs to phone head office tomorrow. I am looking for anarchism in the first degree. No branch or point of sale must work.
You should read our answering affidavit, because in it states clearly that from the Friday, De Bruyn was a suspicious member of the walkout group. His behavior was erratic. He was upset over the fact that Wait was offered a substantial amount of money to return to Tekkie Town. Wait then decided to test him and asked him to do something that he knew he could not do and would not do, and instructed him shortly after that conversation to not do it. So the test proved that De Bruyn was indeed a turncoat, that he had gone to the other camp, so to speak, and that he was in possession of very sensitive information relating to litigation and all the other entities that serve the Van Haastrecht family, 22 entities in total.
Part of this week's court order, while you've got a settlement and you've agreed not to fight for now anymore on some issues, does include a specific requirement that bans you and Bram Van Haastrecht from using Tekkie Town proprietary information. There's a suspicion, it would seem, from the Steinhoff Africa retail group that you've got proprietary information which, yes, you created, but is the legal property of Steinhoff Africa retail because they own Tekkie Town. You no longer have a right to that information.
I agree with that fully. And I would say that I would question what exactly is confidential or proprietary information in our industry. I can't figure it out myself, but I'm very happy to not use it because we have no intention to use it. And also, I don't have to go back to an email to go and find out something that I know intimately over the last 7 years or so if I wanted to use anything, but I have no intention to do that.
What's next, I wonder? Bernard Mostert is the former chief executive of Tekkie Town. Lots of speculation in the market that these guys have been trying to buy back, and there have been discussions between the former Tekkie Town executive team and the management teams at Steinhoff Africa Retail to buy back. But there's a big gap between what the old management team is prepared to pay for the business and what Steinhoff Africa Retail believes it is worth. So there's a big gap there. Are they going to start up in competition? They've got it all in their heads. Should they have, I don't know, a shoe city? There's already a shoe city. Could they have a sneaker city, for example, to come up against Tekkie Town? Something nice and alliterative. We'll talk about that in just a moment.